In today's video, we're going to talk about recent grading trends and do some big picture analysis for the industry as a whole based on some of the numbers from this recent Cardlines article. But first, here's your intro. Alright, so every month we publish this article. Let me go full screen here. Every month we publish this article that's like grading trend report for, insert month here. And sometimes I talk about it on the weekly recap, but I've never actually done something of a deep dive in it, and I want to do a dedicated short video just talking about this particular article because one, I think it's super meaningful, and two, we have one company in particular, cough cough BGS, that is struggling greatly, and these numbers are kind of terrifying for BGS. So what happens is this company GemRate, they publish a daily report, so you can go see like grading trends day to day, and then at the end of the month they say here's how many cards are graded by each company. And then to give you some kind of like trend idea, our crack team of reporters, mainly led by Shai, writes this article talking about the trends over the from month to month, year to year, the changes, players, all that good stuff. So here, let's start just from the top. Submissions were up 23% this month. And while that seems positive, it's not all positive because grading activity was down 12% in November compared to October. Still, this November compared to last November, it was up 11%. So at least more people are grading cards compared to 2023. We saw like obviously the big COVID spike, and then it dropped down quite a bit, and now we're seeing some increased traction, so it's kind of steadily working its way up, and the industry looks very healthy as a whole. That's going to be, I think, like the big picture takeaway, but let's start looking in a little bit more, reading between the lines. So TCG versus sports. It looks like TCG saw the biggest positive gains. It's up 3% as a whole compared to October, with 523,000 total cards graded, and this is obviously just numbers for PSA as labeled here. TCG is being graded a lot by PSA. It's basically being graded as much as the other big three sports together. A lot of them, TCG, the benefit it has is it's not seasonal at all. Basketball will get exciting and get a lot of grades, like kind of based on one, like a popular, this is how all the sports are. When a popular set releases, there'll be a lot of grading and be like, oh, we got our Wemby Prism rookies that we got to submit for grading. Or there'll be a lot of grading submissions in that like preseason excitement around a sport, and then it kind of cools down throughout the year until obviously somebody's going to win the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals or whatever, then probably see a spike in submissions of his card. But just as a whole, there's kind of a cycle to all these. Well, TCG's, evergreen. But here's the kind of the frightening part. BGS was already incredibly low, and they dropped 32% more. They graded 34,000 cards. So PSA was grading more cards per day than BGS graded all month long. SGC, 129,000, so they had a big drop. They're down 22%, but still graded 4 times more at least than BGS did. CGC is popular, especially I think CGC does a lot of TCG cards. Then PSA is the big daddy that did twice as much as the rest of them put together. Top cards by era, these are always kind of interesting. So you see modern stuff's typically going to lead the way, but then you have a breakdown of by the decade what cards have been the most popular, and it gives you a feel for like where people go to grade stuff. For example, SGC typically grades like vintage stuff, or a lot of people grade vintage with film. You can see a larger percentage at least from like 50s, 60s, and 70s. They have a pretty decent percentage compared to the smaller companies, or even like PSA. PSA doesn't grade as much vintage as a percentage of all graded cards as SGC does. So this is kind of cool, just if you're trying to get a feel for like what's being graded by year. Top gem rates for cards. So a gem rate I think is 9.5 at BGS, 9.5 to 10, or obviously 10s at the other companies. So here's a breakdown of just what percentage of cards we're getting that gem score, and it gives you a feel for how tough the company grades. I think I'll look into this. BGS, it might actually be a 9, 9.5, or 10? If you know, let me know in the comments below. Then most graded athletes. Wemby was the most graded, and he was down 37%. Shohei just won another MVP. He was up 51%. Then Michael Jordan, CJ Stroud, Ellie, Caitlin Clark. So we have our top 6. We got some WNBA representation. We got Paul Skeens. A lot of people excited about his cards. And like I said, people really will submit stuff when a noteworthy set comes out. So we had a lot of different sets featuring Paul Skeens rookies coming out in like this Topps update. There was probably a lot of Topps update submitted last month. So most graded TCG characters, check this out. Charizard, 38,000. So Charizard had more cards graded than Victor Wembanyama. It's funny because they're both mythical creatures, but Wembanyama at least has had a couple 40-point games this year, and Charizard's still not real. Speaking of sets, looks like we have a lot of baseball populating the top list. Topps Now baseball was graded. I'm not entirely sure what cards were being graded from Topps Now, but then Topps Chrome. Optic came out, Prism Basketball came out, and I'm sure half of these cards, if not more, were Victor Wembanyama. Bowman Chrome Prospect Autographs. Looks like there's a lot going on there. And then finally, we got some football kind of rounding out the bottom third of the list. If you really want to get in the weeds, you can see a breakdown of like even specific cards. So I guess, for example, the Topps Now Shohei, this might be the 50-50 card, I guess. It was graded 3,600 times, so that was up obviously hugely, especially being a Topps Now. So I guess that's how Topps Now ended up so high on the list. Same thing with TCG. The specific cards that were being graded, you can check that out. So Shohei's card was the most graded card across all cards, including TCG, for November. And that kind of concludes the breakdown. But again, there's just so much information here that I thought it's really worth a deeper dive. Please check out this article. Please keep an eye out for these articles moving forward, because nothing's going to be more indicative of the health of the industry than just how cards are grading and the trends that we see along the way. Hope this video taught you something or give you something to look forward to month to month, and I will see you next time.